What is up, everybody? Welcome to the PlayStation Forecast, Episode 4. I am one of your hosts, your only host, actually, Alex Derrickson. I hope you are well this fine week. I hope this week has gotten you, or last week, I guess, since we last looked at each other and spoke through the various tubes of that is the internet. I hope that you were able to play some games you've been itching to play. Hope you cleared out, maybe chipped away at some of that backlog. And I hope this week will lead you to the same, except there is, kind of a game you may have heard about coming out this week. But, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I have not gotten a chance to really play much of anything. This weekend was my wife's birthday. I'm not blaming her, obviously, but got to spend some time with some family and friends, and that's at the end of the day, that's more important, I had set aside some time on Sunday to play some games. I had picked some stuff up in the Great Indoors Sale. Didn't get a chance to get to it. Had a fun plumbing issue that I had to resolve Sunday, so the sink wouldn't drain, so I didn't get time to actually do any non-adult things like play some games. Hopefully next week I'll have some games to report about. I picked up Battlefront 2. I don't know if I'm going to get to that by the time this next event rolls up that we'll talk about towards the end. Or I picked up UFC 3, which I skipped 2. So I've heard 3 is pretty good. I'm excited to, eventually get in there and check that out. I also picked up, I talked about it in the second episode maybe, this game Adventure Pals. It looks kind of like Adventure Time light with the vibrant color scape and everything like that. It's a 2D action platformer. It's that game I was saying where you have your giraffe that you ride around and your best friend's a pet rock and your dad gets kidnapped by a scientist and threatened to turn into a hot dog. I like silliness. I like just complete abject nonsense. So that kind of just was up my alley. So hopefully I'll get some time for that alongside the upcoming God of War. Now, just housekeeping before we get into the news and everything. Like I said, this will come to you every single Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. When I record it, it's just when I record it. I don't know. It'll be before Tuesday, I promise. If you guys want to help me out, if you like the content I'm doing, if you could click the subscribe button on YouTube or the follow button on Twitch, the links are all below in the episode description. I don't have a cool custom YouTube URL because I don't have enough subscribers, and I would like to have enough subscribers. So that would do me some good in terms of getting the name of the show out there. Also, if I launched a Patreon, I would feel like an asshole. I clearly don't have the traction or the groundwork for something like that. But what I am asking that doesn't cost you guys anything. If you could go to iTunes, whether you get the podcast from Google or Stitcher or Apple or Podbean or Overcast, however you consume this media that I'm doing, first off, thank you. Secondly, if you could just go to the Apple Podcast app or iTunes, however you got to do it, click subscribe, leave a review, like a nice 5-star review, like a nice restaurant. That's going to help this get found and help more people get eyes on it, or ears on it, I guess, depending on the consumption method. But it helps me out, and if you like it, the little bit of support's going to go a long way. And like I said, it doesn't cost you anything. So, and if you want your voice heard, because it's just me. This is just me. It's just me all day, every week. You can write into the show at psforums.pressxtoalex.com and fill out that little Google form if you have questions, or comments, concerns, or news you want to hear me cover, or you want to offer a different opinion. That is always welcome, dissenting or otherwise. Now that we got that out of the way, I've got a rumbly in my tumbly, and the only solution is, without further ado, let's get into the news. Have a handful of news items for us today. God of War is apparently very, very good. A masterpiece, even. I've got some review scores pulled up here. I just kind of want to run through these. IGN, Polygon, Easy Allies, US Gamer, Guardian, Yahoo, Jeuxactu, Jeuxactu. I tried. Telegraph, DualShockers, DarkStation, GameBlog, Game Revolution, all 10 out of 10. It's gotten 10 out of 10 from various other independent blogs as well, or independent sites. Currently sitting at a 95 on Metacritic, a 95 on OpenCritic, and a handful of blurbs. Let's see, there's a triumphant reinvention from Waypoint, the best God of War game from VG247, a mighty success from the Washington Post, a stunning tech showcase from Digital Foundry, Game of the Generation from Skill Up, Shockingly good from Kotaku. I love that. I love shockingly good. Like they're just taken aback by it. So I have not gotten my hands on God of War early. I'm not even a blip on the Sony press radar. Trying to be, trying to get there. Uh, but so I mean, I'm not going to get it, any earlier than the 20th. I wouldn't think, unless someone in the shipping warehouses of where I pre-ordered it mess up and I get it a couple days early. Not likely though. I'm excited. I have been a naysayer of God of War since I first tried it. I've tried the collection multiple times. I never tried the PSP games or the God of War 3 or Ascension, but I never found Kratos likable. But it seems like what Cory Barlog and the Santa Monica team have accomplished is right up my alley. I could not be more excited. And on my actual blog at the start of the year, I had done a top 10 games I'm most looking forward to this year. God of War was on there solely because it was a God of War game that I was interested in. And that was a selling point enough for me to be interested in a God of War game. Like seriously, just what Corey and the Santa Monica team have done with this franchise and the early feedback that it's getting has been nothing short of beyond impressive. I think on Metacritic it's the number 2 rated PS4 game of all time right now. I mean, a 95 is nothing to scoff at all. That is an incredible review, and I love that, similar to Horizon, Sony kind of lets the review embargo up a week before the game comes out. One, because that generates press, it generates interest, it kind of maximizes the hype right at that key point. I know at one point Amazon sold out of pre-orders, which is absurd. And it's cool to see, especially this is back-to-back releases with them now. Horizon in February, God of War in April, where the review embargo comes up a week early, and that confidence, is I think key for games like this. So whether it's game reviews or dating, confidence is sexy, and you should always carry that level of confidence with you. So congratulations to the Santa Monica team and creative director Cory Barlog. That is incredible. I cannot wait to get my hands on it this Friday. Next bit of news is information about the EA E3 press conference has started to come out. This comes by way of GameSpot. Believe it or not, E3 2018 is right around the corner. Oh god. Microsoft and Bethesda have already announced the dates and times for their press conferences, and now EA has too. The EA Play press conference will take place on Saturday, June 9th, starting at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It's 1 p.m. Central Time and noon Mountain. I love Mountain Time. I'm not like a time zone fiend, but that Mountain Time. No one gives it enough credit. If you live in Mountain Time, have at you. Good on you. EA says it has a lot in store for the event. There will be, quote, gameplay reveals and, quote, big announcements from, quote, some of the biggest content creators in gaming. The show will take place at the Hollywood Palladium in Los Angeles. What we know so far is that EA's E3 briefing will include new gameplay and reveals for the next Battlefield game, which is rumored to set in World War II, BioWare's Anthem, and upcoming EA Sports titles. There will also be some surprises, EA says. And it's no surprise, right? EA Play, it's kind of what they're doing now as you start to see more companies kind of distance themselves from traditional E3. You still have Microsoft doing their thing, Bethesda, the best in the world with Devolver. And then, of course, Sony on Monday nights. But I think EA's is going to be one that you really need, and Ubisoft. But I think EA's is one that you're really going to need to kind of keep your eye on, because they have a lot of face they've got to save. I think this past year, especially with the release of with what happened with Battlefront, really, just in general, just that almost specifically, I think that taught them a lot of lessons on how to handle marketing microtransactions and just your games in general. And there was so much, fan backlash, and that they messed up. I mean, you saw it in the sales, you saw it in I think some of the criticisms of the game just within the written reviews. They have some, mistakes to, I guess, atone for lack of a better word. And we've seen this, they get a lot of criticisms. They don't get credit where I think they deserve it with games like A Way Out, which has already hit 1 million sales. So congratulations to Joseph Ferris's team on that as well. That's awesome. But EA has even gone on saying that what A Way Out's done, and the short time it's been out was more than what they expected in totality. So, and that's a game EA doesn't profit off of. Like that, all of that goes straight to the developers, and I think that's good stuff that EA is doing that they don't get the press for because it's EA and they're a fun company to hate for whatever reason, be it the monopolization of various sports franchises, be it how they handle their properties, or how Mass Effect was handled or mishandled. You could go on. EA makes mistakes, as a lot of companies do, but they don't seem to do it with the ardent fervor of backlash that EA gets. So EA Play, we'll see. Like I said, I think EA is going to be one to keep your eyes on solely because they, I think, are going to try, hopefully try to make up for how last year ended and how they're going to handle games going forward as microtransactions kind of become more prevalent in this generation of gaming. Next bit of news is the NIS president apologizes for negative comments about the PS4. This comes from Gematsu. This is a lengthy one, so strap in. NIS America President Takeru Yamashita has issued an apology regarding comments made in the MCV April 2018 issue article Switching Gear. In the article, Yamashita made the following comments. He was asked, "You were working much closer with Nintendo recently. How did that come about, and what benefits have you seen as a company?" Yamashita replies, "I'll give you a scoop. Originally, we signed with SNK on SNK Heroines just on the PlayStation 4 format. Then last year, an opportunity happened at Gamescom where two third parties happened to meet all together outside Nintendo's meeting room. The first meeting was between NIS America and Nintendo of Europe, and the next meeting was between SNK and Nintendo of Europe. Of course, these two were separate meetings. Then, after their meeting, influential people from SNK came to our booth and said, 'Hey, Mr. Yamashita, is it possible to cancel our contract on PlayStation 4? Nintendo wants to work on this title on an exclusive basis.' So these third parties come together, and the teams at NIS and SNK decided to go with Nintendo for the Western market. Physical copy-wise, it's going to be a Switch exclusive. PlayStation 4-wise, it's going to be just digital. That's the deal. We will not release a packaged version for the PlayStation 4 format. Then Nintendo will act as a distributor for this game. Then they promise to buy a lot of units. I can't reveal the number of units they've guaranteed. That's secret talk." He was then pressed a little further with, "What is your strategy for Europe moving forwards?" Yamashita replies, "For the JRPG market, the biggest country is France, so most of our key titles such as Ys 8 and the Disgaea series, we localized the game in French to get it in a much better position in Europe because the French market is the biggest for the JRPG titles." This goes on, talking about how he's doing more for Switch. The key quote in here is that, let's see, "We started doing more on Nintendo Switch. SNK Heroines is not the only one. We've teamed up with Nintendo Europe for other Switch titles. They support is in a good way. So I guess their support is in a good way. Compared to that, Sony is not friendly with small publishers like us. They just care about big Japanese companies. Also, if we simultaneously release a Switch version and a PlayStation 4 version of the same title, currently the sales trend is 2-to-1. That means the Switch version sells twice as much as the PlayStation 4 version, physically and digitally. A lot of PlayStation 4 titles are coming up, so the market is very competitive. Compared to that, the Switch market still has a lot of room for publishers to make money." So that's the key statement there. Yamashita issued an apology shortly thereafter, saying, "I must extend my most heartfelt apology to SNK and Sony Interactive Entertainment. The truth is that the Nintendo Switch exclusive plan was originally decided by NIS America, and only later, among discussions with influential SNK people, did we decide that the best option moving forward would be to have as much exposure as possible. This is why that in the end, we're bringing the PS4 version of SNK Heroines to the market, and even supported this version at the NISA press event, and in the press meetings in February and March. In discussing matters with MCV, I thought that some insider information would make them interested in the overall conversation, and such lip service did not stand on the side of truth. Once again, I apologize to SNK and Sony if it made them seem negative towards the PS4 platform in any way, and stress that the original goal of a Nintendo Switch exclusive version of SNK Heroines came from NISA." It's a lot to take in. So I think the first bit of I want to like the smaller bit I want to kind of unpack is that I'm not surprised that games are being outselling the PS4 and the Switch almost at a 2-to-1 clip. That's kind of been something that's been going on since the Switch has come out. Yacht Club tweeted that when Shovel Knight's just hit 2 million sales, which is absurd that it's taken this long to get to 2 million. Buy Shovel Knight. Seriously. If you have not bought Shovel Knight, buy Shovel Knight. You're missing out. Neither here nor there. So Yacht Club tweets that Shovel Knight's hit 2 million in sales, and almost the bulk of like more sales have come from the Switch than they have almost from any other system. And a lot of the games like this, like these side-scrolling games or like the indie games, I guess, from smaller publishers, I think are more conducive to the Switch because you see it with systems like the Vita. When you take a game on the road, since the Switch has come out, I don't have one, but I've just constantly wished every system I own has been similar to that of the Switch. It's a great functional format to be able to take a home console on the road with you without latency or without, needing to be within a certain like I guess like arm's reach of the console itself, like it was with the Wii U, as a huge selling point. And I think right now, once you move away from games like Zelda with Breath of the Wild, games like Mario Odyssey, games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which are all great titles, you still have that fan base that's clamoring for more. And I think as you start seeing games come out more for the Switch, like almost every Thursday, there's another dozen, 2 dozen games getting released that they're going to sell well because that market wants more games. They want more Switch experiences. They want to be able to play stuff at home, take it in their car, play it on the bus, play it on the plane, come back home, all seamlessly in transition, boom, boom, boom. It's it's not a surprise that games are outselling on the Switch. What is a surprise is that while he does say this lip service did not stand on the side of truth, to say that Sony is not friendly with small publishers, I think kind of flies in the face of specifically this console generation in general, but flies in the face of the Sony, gaming sphere and the gaming space. It's I wouldn't say it's preposterous or it's ludicrous because I'm sure at some point Sony has done something with a small team or small developer that that didn't quite fly right with the gaming community. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but when you look on the PlayStation Network at the PlayStation Store specifically, there are a lot of garbage on. There's a lot of garbage on there. We've seen it, last year with Life of Black Tiger, arguably one of the worst looking games you could possibly find. Things like My Name is Mayo, which you're just paying $1 for a platinum trophy for the most part. I mean, that's not even a game. That's a game mechanic. That's just tapping mayonnaise until you get a platinum. Stuff like Energy Cycle or 1000 top rated platinum 5-star, whatever that puzzle game that literally was just bragging, hey, get a platinum trophy in 30 seconds or whatever it was. To a greater extent, there's games like I can't think of the name. It's like Soul Knight or Soul Blade, something like that. It's just stolen assets, both of art, music, every like it is just almost a complete plagiarized video game. And then to go a step further, if you look up Skylight Free Range 2, that is a that is that is an abhorrent, just an obstruction of gaming history. That is an ugly ass game. And it looks awful. It does not look like it plays. Period. So to say Sony doesn't play nice with small publishers when there's an issue of is there starting to be too much garbage in the PlayStation Store from small publishers, I think there's too much of an argument against what Yamashita is saying. And I think that's why he came out, he apologized, because I mean there's just an ardent falsehood there in saying that when there's a genuine concern, at least with me, and I don't know if it runs within your social circles, psforums.pressxtoalex.com, and let me know that there might be getting to be too much trash in the PlayStation Store, kind of similar to what you see in like the Apple Store or Steam or things like that, where almost anyone can just put games up there. It's not like shovelware on the Wii, but it's getting to be an issue where there doesn't seem to be quality control in effect, preventing some games. And I don't think there's ever been a problem with Sony and NISA. NISA publishes the Danganronpa series on the Vita, which is arguably the best franchise on the like that serves as a up until recently Vita exclusive. And those games are phenomenal. Those are some of my favorite games that I've played just in the last 5-6 years. Going a step further, they just published and I think co-developed The Longest 5 Minutes, which came out in February on the Vita. Just 2 weeks ago, there was Penny Punching Princess. So to say specifically, to say one thing is that Sony doesn't play nice with small publishers, but then to cite your own publishing company as an example, when you look at the Prinny games on PSP and the one every aforementioned title I've just dropped, like the evidence is there that, like he said, he was trying to generate a scoop to get to create interest in the conversation, and it was a dumb thing to say. The apology, I'm sure, was fine. I'm sure it went over well. And I'm sure it's water under the bridge, or at least I hope so, because I want more Danganronpa. But I don't know. It's a weird thing to say when there's so much proof stating otherwise. So let's get back to E3. The next bit of news is Bethesda's already dropping E3 hints. This comes from an interview with Pete Hines and DualShockers. It's a long one. Bethesda's senior vice president of marketing, Pete Hines, hinted at a sequel to the superlative 2016 Doom by stating that E3 is, quote, hell on earth for the company. It's an interesting turn of phrase when you consider that 1994's Doom 2 was known as Doom 2 Hell on Earth. Hines made this comment when asked about what could be expected from Bethesda in the second half of the year, saying, quote, I couldn't give you any guesses as to what we're going to announce and when those games will be out, but I will say we have a lot of new stuff to talk about at E3. Whether or not folks realize it, this is hell on earth time. This is the hell on earth time for us with E3. We are in the midst of much planning and work for all of the content, but I'm really excited, he said in a conversation with gaming blog DualShockers. He continues, I think we have a lot of stuff that folks are going to like. To my earlier comment, it's going to be a big mix of stuff that's all over the place. It's not going to be like all one kind of game genre. It's going to be a lot of stuff in a lot of different areas, and hopefully there's something in there for everybody. Before I go to the next part of this, where he's teasing even more games, it would not be a surprise to anyone that Doom is getting a sequel, or that it would follow the the Doom title lineage into Doom 2 Hell on Earth. I think that's perfectly fitting. It's been 2 years since we've seen Doom since it was released. Arguably the strongest and tightest first-person shooter on this console generation. A commercial success, a critical success. To expect more Doom, I think, is an incredibly obvious thing to do from Bethesda. So to go on a little bit, because he talks a little more in the interview where they're not really a company that releases a lot of games. I'll get to the exact, yeah. So as with a lot of stuff, we're not a massive publisher that just churns out a ton of titles. We never have been. We really stick with our stuff after it launches, and we have with, and I'll get to that in a second. So Bethesda partners with, id, they partner with Machine Games for Wolfenstein, and then, you have Elder Scrolls, you have Fallout, and what have yous. Like I said, to expect more Doom, I think it makes sense to drop a tease like that. I think is right in Bethesda's wheelhouse. We saw it 2 E3s ago, 2016, where you had that weird like MS-DOS boot up prompt for the E3 press conference, and you saw the new Colossus listed for a new Wolfenstein game. To do something like this, it's more in like the supermassive realm of, for a new Until Dawn to be announced, it would need a rush of blood to the head, which then Rush of Blood became the Until Dawn VR title. So cagey responses like this are not outside of the realm of a lot of developers and publishers. So he goes on a little further. Like I said here, my screen dropped. Oh my god. As with a lot of stuff, we are not a massive publisher that just churns out a ton of titles. We never have been. We really stick with our stuff after it launches, as we have with Prey, he said. Part of what you've probably noticed is that we've hired a new community manager who's been focused on Prey. Abigail's been awesome, and she has been doing a lot of fun stuff around April Fools and other things. But yeah, I don't think you've heard the last of Prey. I just couldn't tell you precisely when you might hear more. So, again, as he said, they really stick with their stuff after it launches. We saw it with Fallout. There's not constant DLC, but there's been a ton of DLC already for Wolfenstein 2. I don't know if with Doom, and I'll get to Prey in a second, but with Doom, if there is a Doom 2, I don't know if it's a game you release this year. As you're starting to see, the closer it gets to October and November, where you have your perennial first-person shooter juggernauts, but then you've got that cowboy elephant in the room with Red Dead. Uh, it kind of seems like a lot of companies are kind of just getting up and getting out of the way of October. You see it with Spider-Man coming out in September. You see it with Days Gone getting pushed to 2019. I think there's that dearth of developers and publishers that are going to try and dodge the Red Dead window. But again, Bethesda kind of just beats to their own drum with schedules, and we saw it when they released Wolfenstein alongside Assassin's Creed and alongside Super Mario Odyssey. And then Wolfenstein's just kind of been a game that's on sale off and on, and the sales have been there. And it's making them money, obviously. They're still supporting it. I think there's no reason why not to continue that franchise, and the same goes for a game like Doom. They have two really good first-person shooter teams in id and Machine Games. And with Prey, I think Prey just kind of not got swept under the rug, but is kind of the forgotten game from, not that long ago. I missed it. I know it's been on sale a lot, but it's just not a game that came out at the wrong time for me, or if it's just like it just never really caught my interest. I did the demo, and then the progress from the demo didn't carry over, and I really didn't want to do that opener again. It was really just what it came down to. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's some DLC for Prey, if nothing else, maybe to generate some more interest in it, or to remind people that it exists. But what Bethesda does, they're a developer that kind of just, and publisher too, that kind of just beats to their own drum. So they announced Fallout 4 in June and released it in November the same year. The caveat to that, though, right, is they kind of developed it in a vacuum to get it done and be able to be like, hey, like, look, we have this, and it's out in a couple months. So it kind of got out Fallouted by a game like The Witcher, which had been out, had accumulated a ton of critical acclaim, and really took that genre to the next step and to the next level. So if Doom comes out this year, great. If not, it's an early 2019 release that Bethesda has in their back pocket. So just be on the lookout for more Doom and possibly more Prey. It's exciting. Tangentially linked to The Witcher, next bit of news is the Witcher 3 HDR patch is live. This comes from The Witcher's official website. A new patch for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt on a PS4 and PS4 Pro consoles is now available. The most notable changes are introduction of HDR and stability improvements related to crashes experienced by the players. The list of changes are as follows: HDR support, various performance optimizations, stability improvements, localization bug fixing, and minor visual improvements. So since I've spent 0 hours in The Witcher, 0 seconds, 0 minutes. That game is far too big. At this stage in my life too, being a new parent and having enough stuff in my backlog that I can't get to that's only 10 hours, I'm not going to jump into a game that's 10 times more, 10 times plus that size. I mean, obviously there's a market there for it. People have been clamoring for the HDR patch, I think, since really the PS4 Pro came out. That's been, I think, a dream list title for that console. The game is gorgeous on its own. You stack the HDR on that, you're only going to make a gorgeous game look better, right? So for those that have been wanting it, this is great news. For someone like me who doesn't have time for a 100-hour plus game on top of multiple DLCs, no matter how good or compelling a story may be, I would jump into that game and immediately find it overwhelming. So shout out to The Witcher fans. If you've been wanting that HDR patch, you can now experience The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt with that fine high dynamic range. Also with stability improvements, like all good relationships should have. Next bit of news is GTA 5 has made a lot of money. This comes by the way of IGN. Industry analyst Doug Kreutz says Grand Theft Auto 5 has made more money than any other form of media in history, with over 90 million units sold and $6 billion in revenue. Kreutz, managing director and senior research analyst covering the media and entertainment sector at Cohen, told MarketWatch that the game has made more than blockbuster movies like Star Wars and Gone with the Wind, which both brought in around $3 billion in theaters when adjusted for inflation. Cruz estimates that even with home entertainment sales, which he puts in the ballpark of $1 billion, the films don't come close to Rockstar's 2013 title. I think it's a wild outlier, said Cruz, adding, that's not to say Rockstar won't have other big hits. It may, but another GTA 5 isn't likely. Michael Jackson has a lot of hit albums, but he only had one Thriller. I love that quote. That's a great analogy. As with most analyst statements, some of this is based on information we are not privy to, so take the wilder conclusions with a grain of salt. But that, be that as it may, there is no doubting GTA 5's incredible success. At the end of last year, GTA 5 had sold 85 million copies and continues to appear on NPD's monthly list of best-selling games in the US. The title has remained in the top 10 in the UK charts for months, often still breaking the top 5 years after the top 5 years after release. We're coming up on 5 years of that game too. According to Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick, GTA 5 was on 42 out of the 50 NPD monthly top 10 charts last year, the most appearances of any single game on the NPD rankings. Goddamn. That Jesus. So you always hear how well Grand Theft Auto 5 is doing financially, right? We already know it's a critical success, but the commercial success has been unparalleled, unrivaled. You know, it's this sort of just unbridled license to print money over and over and over and over again. But for it to be 5 years now, it'll be 5 years in September, since it launched on PS3 and Xbox 360, and then 4 years on PS4, Xbox One, for it to just continuously be in the top 10 or top 5, to hit 48 of the 50 NPDs. When you see the numbers broken down like that and the more granular aspects, on top of the comparisons to other forms of media, it is unreal. And the fact that that game still continues to make that much money and to sell that well, leading into Rockstar's next release with Red Dead in 6 months, is unbelievable. Like, that is an incredible achievement financially. The drawback to that, right, is Take-Two's already come out and said, hey, microtransactions in all of our games going forward. Which isn't a surprise given, you know, the success of the shark cards and the like in terms of the in-game currency within GTA 5 Online. But you've also seen, you know, the converse of that is how poorly the NBA 2K microtransactions were received, where you were paying an exorbitant amount of money for haircuts for your character, or how if you pre-ordered a specific edition, you got a a huge bump in your stats for your creative player, which then carried into, you know, how well you played online. So it was almost became a pay to win situation, which that's not to say GTA 5 Online isn't quite like that, but there's more to do. There's more to use the money on. GTA 5 Online's been so successful that Rockstar's totally backpedaled on ever releasing single player DLC for it, because they've said, like, we don't know how we would or if we even need to. But like I said, it's a known entity that GTA 5 has been an unparalleled success in the gaming industry, in the entertainment industry as a whole, as shown here. But to break it down into the numbers, compared to other, you know, blockbuster movies, to compare it to any other form of media, to compare it to how often it's on the NPD, I'll say it again, just goddamn. That is incredible. So Rockstar is going to probably... I would not be surprised if at some point in October, November, December, if they have 2 PS4, Xbox One games, you know, 2 current generation games in the top 10 for NPD. Because I don't think, not to say that there won't be a crossover between GTA and Red Dead, because I think that same crowd's going to pick up. There's definitely some bleed. There's some center in that Venn diagram, right? But I think there's still going to be a little bit of, not loyalty, but the people who like Grand Theft Auto don't necessarily all like Red Dead and vice versa. But like I said, there's going to be that crossover. There's going to be that bleed. How Take-Two and Rockstar handle the implementation of microtransactions in Red Dead remains to be seen, and how they're going to be received, especially given the backlash that games like Battlefront had, how 2K had, which is right out of Take-Two's own, you know, umbrella. We'll see. If they handle it appropriately, obviously this is going to be another moneymaker regardless. But I think there's some merit in saying that it won't be as successful as Grand Theft Auto, but it's another one of those where it doesn't really matter, because that level of success anything less than that's going to be expected. So Grand Theft Auto 5 is still going incredibly strong, leading into the next game release, which is just insane. Next bit of news is Sony's created a new San Diego team. There's some speculation as to what it could possibly be for. This comes from Push Square and Reset Era. Sony insinuated recently that it intends to concentrate on first-party production moving forwards, strengthening its output of PlayStation exclusives. And it sounds like the first stages of those plans have been put into motion, as job listings suggest that it's creating a new development team in partnership with its visual arts service group. For those of you not clued in and on the inner structure of the Japanese giant's first-party stable, the VASG division specializes in motion capture and has collaborated with a variety of developers on PS4 titles, including the upcoming God of War. It sounds like the new development team will be stationed nearby and has been tasked with work on an unannounced title. Now here's where things get interesting. This is all speculation. The job listing requires applicants to have a penchant for third-person action games. It also states that it will be working in collaboration with a major Sony development studio. Further digging on Reset Era reveals that one PlayStation employee in the San Diego area has been working with Naughty Dog on an unannounced game. The job listing continues. The new game development team will leverage our existing expertise and talent, guaranteeing a high visual bar for the title. So, if it is in fact a San Diego team working in collaboration with Naughty Dog, it could mean ostensibly one of two things. They're helping out with Last of Us Part 2, which would, make sense. That's a game that we know. But the fact that it is assisting on an unannounced title lends to the credence that it may be Uncharted 5 or an Uncharted kind of Gaiden, like a nice little side story, a la The Lost Legacy. If Uncharted were to become a semi-annualized franchise, not every year, but maybe once every 2, maybe 3, no fewer, I don't need an Uncharted game every year. That's not a discredit to Lost Legacy. I loved the shit out of Uncharted Lost Legacy. It sits really high in my rankings of Uncharted games from best to worst, but if it is a new Uncharted game, I do hope it's not a Drake story. Specifically Nathan Drake. If it's Sam, that's fine. I could use more Sam. I could use more Sully. I could use young Sully. Or, sticking with Lost Legacy with Chloe and Nadine. The Uncharted games are great. They're commercial successes. I know Lost Legacy Lost Legacy was hard to gauge in NPD and in PlayStation Store downloads, because if you got the collector's edition of Uncharted 4, you got Lost Legacy for free with the season pass. It just became a DLC that was much larger than they ever expected, to the point where it expounded beyond DLC and became a full-fledged, budget title at $40. If it is a new Uncharted game, like I said, I do hope it is a side story. I don't know if this is going to be something we'll see in E3 in June. It's an interesting time to start kind of pimping your next round of exclusives, or start kind of hyping up your exclusives. And for all we know, this is Uncharted 5 with Nathan Drake, and it's a PS5 title. The reason why I'm not totally just poo-pooing this is because, one, Uncharted is a flagship title for Sony and for the PlayStation brand. The other is, at E3 2016, we saw God of War, we saw Detroit, we saw Spider-Man. All of those games are coming out this year, with Days Gone not being too far behind, probably in early 2019, because it was delayed for business reasons. It had hit and exceeded all of its milestones. It was pushed back probably to find a more conducive, time to be released. We're seeing the 2016 games that were announced that were exclusive start to sunset. We're sunsetting a lot of those. We're starting to get more Last of Us 2. We're starting to see more Dreams, which is hopefully still this year. Some Death Stranding, which God knows when that game's even going to come out. I'm still saying 2020. I'm saying it might not even be a PS4 game. But I think if they do announce a new Uncharted game, because of Lost Legacy, I'd say it's too early. But if they announce it this year, it makes sense, because you're starting to, the well, so to speak, is starting to get dry with the exclusives. I'm sure there's more to announce, and there's more on the way. I think that'll be seen more this June And then after June, you've got Paris Games Week, Tokyo Game Show, you've got PSX in December. So we're not anywhere near having a shortage of exclusives. And it seems like with Sony making that their focus, to maybe go back to the Uncharted well wouldn't be the least bit surprising. Let me know what you think. If you want a new Uncharted game, write into the show. If you don't, write in. Let me know why. I want your guys' opinions. I want your involvement on this. This is hosting and producing a podcast on your own is hard as hell. So the more you guys get involved, the better. I think a better product that I can make for you. So if you want more Uncharted, write in. It's psforums.pressxtoalex.com, and the link will be in the episode description on the podcast and on the video. And the topic of games being in development secretly, from Gama Sutra. So, on a Kotaku article about how Mafia 3 lost its way, that's actually the article title, there was almost like a sub-story within this. So, as Mafia 3 developer Hangar 13 struggles to nail down its next project, a neighboring studio within parent company 2K Games has reportedly started work on a new entry in the BioShock series. The scoop comes from a Kotaku story chronicling Hangar 13's recent turbulent history. In that story, a developer speaking anonymously mentions that a neighboring studio, also owned by 2K, is working on a project codenamed Parkside that is, in truth, a new game in the BioShock series. The original run of BioShock saw the release of 3 games: BioShock, BioShock 2, BioShock Infinite, and the series has been sitting quietly since Infinite's release in 2013. Irrational Games, the original developer, now Ghost Story Games, is well known for the role it played in developing 2 of the 3 in the series, but the rights of BioShock remained with 2K when the two companies separated in 2017. The unnamed 2K studio now working on the game has reportedly assembled a small team to do so, pulling developers from both outside 2K and from sister studios like Hangar 13 to work on the project. This has all been going on while Hangar 13 endured its own share of difficulties. So this goes on. I have not gotten a chance to read the whole article about the development of Mafia 3. I really do want to read that because that was a game I was kind of... The reviews talked me out of playing it, which I don't like to say that often because I still like to, think for myself as a modern day individual. But when I was really excited for Mafia 3, and the reviews came out that like the story's good and like the world's okay, but there's not a lot to do and it's kind of buggy. It was just one of those games I just skipped over. So I don't know if I'll ever get to it. I mean, it could be $10 one day and I might pick it up, but I'm probably going to sit on it for a really long time, which in turn just adds to the backlog. And if digital games could get dusty, mine would be cavernous. Mine would be a great house for bats. But something, I don't know. I don't know when we'll hear about the new BioShock game. Arguably, if that's true, you could hear about it this June with E3. It seems like a good time to do it. If it is this June, I'd be surprised if it came out this year. It just depends on how far along they are in development. Could be 2019. If they announce it in 2019, it'll probably be 2020. But so with BioShock, with the BioShock series itself, right? Very critically acclaimed, sci-fi first-person shooter, really good story, really compelling universe. BioShock 2 is kind of the Arkham Origins of the bunch, where it's not made by the original team. The DLC is really heralded, but it's kind of the one that gets forgotten in the mix between, BioShock, BioShock Infinite. 2, from what I've read, is fine. It's just not the same as 1. And Infinite seems to be hit or miss depending on the crowd. It seems like it was a game that not a lot of people were wanting, at the time. So it'll be interesting as it is now further distance from Irrational, now Ghost Story games, how this will play out and how microtransactions will be if it's a Take-Two game. I don't know, so that's something to keep your eye on if you're a BioShock fan. There might be some more BioShock headed your way. Excuse me. A little bit of last bit of news before we get into the topic of the show and the wrap-up is those sons of bitches at Sega did it. Y'all asked for it. I kind of asked for it, and I'm kind of regretting asking for it, but it is happening. We are getting the Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2 remastered collection HD package ditty, whatever you want to do. So this is the official press release from Sega Europe. Sega Europe is proud to announce that the pioneering epic saga Shenmue 1 and 2 is to be re-released for a new generation. Get ready. Excuse me. To go on a thrilling voyage across faithful recreations of Japan and Hong Kong, China, in a timeless tale of revenge and mystery when Shenmue 1 and 2 launches both physically and digitally on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, with a PC release on Steam in 2018. Since their original release, Shenmue 1 and 2 have established a passionate following and are revered as some of gaming's greatest series of all time. These revolutionary masterpieces deliver a gripping story of retribution as Ryo Hazuki sets out to avenge his father's death and attempts to unravel the secrets behind a mysterious artifact known as the Dragon Mirror. Shenmue 1 and 2 comes complete with the original feature set that defined modern gaming, including enthralling jujitsu combat, investigative sleuthing, and RPG elements in addition to memorable minigames. Shenmue 1 and 2 is set with an engrossing real-time open world that feels truly alive thanks to the day-night cycle and weather changes with a population of civilians who follow their own schedules. This is the definitive version of these all-time classics and will be the best Shenmue experience to date. The re-releases will stay true to the originals with modernized features including fully scalable screen resolution, choice of modern or classic control schemes, PC graphics options, an updated user interface, and the option to enjoy either the original Japanese or English voiceovers. We don't have a date, we have a window of this year. So, which leads me to think Shenmue 3 probably going to be next year, which is fine. I mean, the fact that we're even getting a Shenmue 3 is absolutely ridiculous to me. With Shenmue though, I asked for it, begged even, but now that it's happening, I'm not that excited for it. So I don't know the last time anyone played Shenmue, or if they've played it since launch or since 2000 when it came out or not. But these Shenmue specifically, I never did play 2, but I got an Xbox very late. Shenmue specifically, I've always described as a game that has its place in the modern, in the action RPG, third person open world kind of the history of games. It has its place in the lore of a genre. It is arguably the grandfather of the action RPG open world, with the day-night cycles, the weather changes, the different, the cast of characters that live in the city that make the city feel alive, the mini games, the QTEs. You see so much of Shenmue and Shenmue's legacy and its bones in modern day gaming. Rockstar's come out and even said, with what they did with GTA 3 was kind of on the back of Shenmue, where they saw, the first Shenmue and was like, we can do something like this. And they took that, made it better. And that's how we get, Grand Theft Auto 3 and then, Vice City 4, 5, so on and so forth. You see it in games like Horizon with the day to night cycles, and you see it with the lived in world, even with modern games like God of War. Any sort of open world game, Infamous, anything like that, it's all kind of on the back and on the history and the legacy of the Shenmue games. The issue I have with this is if you go back and play Shenmue, these games are boring as fuck. There's some cool, compelling parts of it, but it does not hold up. It was great in 2000. I think the hype was a little much for it, just compared to what was the eventual delivered product. But what it pulled off, its execution was really good. I mean, for as ambitious of a game as it was, it did its job. It was fully serviceable. I mean, you even see it in kind of the spiritual successors in the Yakuza games. The issue I have, though, is I don't know who in 2018 is going to pick up Shenmue, play it, and be like, this is great. I am okay with this, because there's so many games out now that are doing it better, that have improved upon what Shenmue did. How the modernity of it, when the remaster comes out, I mean, we don't know. I don't know how modern that's going to take or how the modern feels of it's going to be, but I don't know. I don't think Shenmue is a game that holds up over time, especially, 18 years later. This game is almost 2 decades old, and it's 2 decades of almost everybody doing what it did better. How that's going to impact Shenmue 3, I would hope that they grow and they learn from what's been done already. But keep your eye peeled to Twitter, to my Twitter, twitter.com/pressx to Alex. I want to do a Shenmue Let's Play. Just get in there. My Dreamcast is hooked up. I still have my copy that I got for Christmas of 2000. And I want to just like get back in there and really get in the nitty gritty and the weeds of this game because, like I said, there's a lot there that you see in this era of gaming, but it's all bad compared to what we have now. So how that's going to translate in 2018, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a situation where everyone asks for it like they did the Mirror's Edge sequel and then nobody bought it. There's a crowd there for it. I just don't think the crowd's as big as Sega is anticipating or hoping. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, if you are hyped for Shenmue 1 and 2, like genuinely hyped, not just like, I remember that game and I'm going to play it because I think you're in for a rude surprise. Or if you're excited for Shenmue 3, please let me hear from you. I want to hear from the Shenmue community. So press psforums.pressx2alex.com. And also keep your eyes peeled because I really want to do that Shenmue Let's Play. I want to take 45 seconds out of my game time to dial a rotary phone one number at a time because you do that. I will not get to the forklift driving sections, but I may play some claw machines, some lucky hit, some QTEs. You'll see, like I said, there's so much of today in this game. It is... I love the Dreamcast. Shenmue is the perfect, I guess, single software personification of the Dreamcast, and that it was so far ahead of its time. So much so that people weren't ready for it. And I think that there's a market there for it, and it just was maybe a few years too early. But you see a lot of its remnants, a lot of its foundation, a lot of the soul of the Dreamcast and the Shenmue and modern day gaming. But I digress. I could go on for a long time about this, and I'd rather save it for when I'm playing Shenmue, which I'll try to keep you all in the loop for on that. So, last bit of news before the wrap up is also topic of the show because it's apparently never too early to talk about the PS5. Unless you ask me, then it's too early. Right now it's too early. So this is from a Kotaku article. You can find it. It's basically started with people saying the PS5 was going to get stealth announced and released this year. Which, God, fuck, that is preposterous. So this is the blip that I cut out for this. Over the past month, I think this was Jason Schreier. Over the past month, I've spoken to dozens of game developers across a variety of disciplines and studios about the next generation of consoles. Of those, 2 people said they were directly familiar with the plans for Sony's new console. Those 2 people both told me that the next PlayStation is unlikely to release in 2019, let alone 2018, although they were careful to be clear that these plans are always shifting. Quote, on a multi-year project, a lot can happen to shift schedules both forwards and backwards, one person said. At some point, Sony's probably looked at every possible date, and it's all about what they think is the best sweet spot in terms of hardware. A surprise move by Microsoft or another competitor, for example, could trigger a change in plans. In the scope of things, so PS4, November 2013. So we're coming up on this thing being out for 5 years. 5 years since launch day. Which at that point puts us in, if you compare to the PS3 timeline as a parallel, it puts it in like 2011. So we're coming up on Uncharted 3 era. So 2 years away from The Last of Us. And this is around the time, and we saw it in like 2009 with Uncharted 2, where you start to really see like a development team really hit its stride with the cell processors and really maximizing what the PS3 can do. And I think we're just getting to that point with the PS4, with the likes of, a game like Horizon, with God of War coming out in a few days. Days Gone right around the corner. Fuck, I mean, you could even credit Knack and Knack too. But when you look at like Naughty Dog's growth from Uncharted to Uncharted 2, 3, because there's not that big of a jump as there was with Uncharted to, Uncharted 2 as there was with 2 to 3. From 3 to The Last of Us, you can see already starting to take shape with Guerrilla, with Killzone Shadowfall, and then with Horizon subsequently. Within that same engine, we've gotten Until Dawn. We're getting Death Stranding. which is arguably not this console generation. But yeah, I think if I'm just gonna spitball and speculate here, I think the soonest we're gonna hear about a PS5 is 2019. If then at all, I think that's even cutting it way too early. 2020 makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised if they follow the same, kind of news cycle that they did with the PS4, where there was like, we'll showcase the tech in February, make the date and price announcement in June, release it in November. I think that really worked well for them. I still think we're a way away. We're still at the point now, especially when we're experimenting with iterative hardware with like the PS4 Pro and, Microsoft's side with the Xbox One X. We're seeing, kind of different experimentation in how hardware is being handled. We're not at the point, I think, where the systems have been maxed out, where there's nothing more we can do. That's not to say there's not dev kits out there. I fully believe that there's probably one or two, maybe four, I don't know, PS5 dev kits circulating Naughty Dog or Sucker Punch or, Quantic Dream or whatever. Sony Bend, who knows? But it's too early, I think, for it to have that much legs, that much traction, to hold that much water. I don't think we're at that point yet. I would love, to know what's coming up. But at the same time, though, I'm not done with these consoles yet. I'm not done with the PS4. I'm not finished seeing what, other teams can make for the system, because I don't think we've reached the pinnacle or the point to where, like I said, where we're maxing these out. So if you're hearing PS5 rumors, I ran a Twitter poll, which I think like 6 people voted on, of whether or not PS5 rumors are a non-story in 2018. A couple people said yes, a couple people said no, and a couple people said that it's never too early to discuss something like this. Frankly, I disagree. I do think it is too early. I do think this is a non-story. Whether it's trying to generate clicks or drum up some news or whatever, I think that's, if Sony were to come out at E3 and be like, PS5 this year, that would be so injurious to their current market share, to their fan base. And that's not to say if Microsoft comes out and they're like Xbox One 2 or Xbox 2, Xbox One XX. However, I don't get the naming convention. That's neither here nor there. That's not to say that that wouldn't trigger a seismic shift in Sony's plans. But right now, I don't think Sony and the PlayStation brand need to deviate, to start, moving to the next life cycle of consoles. We've had, and you could argue that yes, the PS3, Xbox One, or Xbox 360 and Wii era lasted as long as it did from 2006 to, and Microsoft and Sony's case, 2013. Because of the economic recession and that they just financially it wouldn't make sense, and things like that in 2008. But I think the seven year console cycle made sense. It was long, and there was points where it kind of felt grueling, where everybody was just sitting on their hands waiting for the next, the PS4 announcement, the Xbox One announcement. And when it finally came, it shuttered all of the "is this the death of consoles" talk that we had been hearing for so long. It's interesting. We're at a different time and a different space. And the future of that kind of just remains to be seen, I guess, and how things are going to be pursued going forward in the current console market. Because like I said, we're experimenting with iterative hardware. We're not just getting, a PS3 Slim or the PS3 top loading Super Slim, or, a different hard drive size. It's getting to be different hardware, different tech, different, abilities, better graphics, better, frame rates, things like that. So it's interesting. It's an interesting time to be a console fan, because we're kind of embarking on uncharted waters, so to speak. Last bit of news is the wrap up, which are your new games and dates. Metal Gear X Legacy Collection 1 and 2 coming July 24th. Indie adventure game Forgotten Anne comes to PS4 this May. Fighting game My Hero 1's Justice comes to PS4 this year. The Banner Saga 3 comes to PlayStation 4 July 24th, with a physical trilogy collection coming the same day in North America. I think in Europe it is the 27th. Destiny 2's second expansion Warmind comes May 8th. Shopkeeping action RPG Moonlighter comes to PS4 May 29th. Star Wars Battlefront 2 Night on Endor update comes April 18th, so that'll be going up here shortly. And then there's a rumor, I think I read, that microtransactions may be coming back for that. I'm not 100% sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then finally, Conan Exiles comes to PS4 May 8th. Now, if you want to know what games are coming to you on the PlayStation Store, both physical and digital, for April 17th through the 20th, I've got those for you here too. So it's time to get into the drop. Assetto Corsa Ultimate Edition comes to PS4 Digital April 20th. Assetto Corsa Ultimate Edition is the most complete version of the universally acclaimed driving simulator, parentheses that I've never heard of, offering all the DLC and updates ever released for the game. Casey Powell Lacrosse 18 comes to PS4 Digital. Casey Powell Lacrosse 18 offers sports fans a dynamic, fast, and challenging experience with all the excitement, speed, and scoring of real-life lacrosse. Drive on Moscow comes to PlayStation 4 Digital, out April 20th. Drive on Moscow War in the Snow, a strategy game from the award-winning makers of Battle of the Bulge, invites you to take command of the pivotal battle of World War II. Dang, it is the pivotal battle of World War II. God of War comes to PS4 Digital and Retail April 20th. From Santa Monica Studios and creative director Cory Barlog comes a new beginning of one of gaming's most recognizable icons. Living as a man outside the shadow of the gods, Kratos must adapt to unfamiliar lands, unexpected threats, and the second chance at being a father, and I can't fucking wait. Gunhouse comes to PS4 Digital. Protect your valuable orphans. Defeat giant improbable bosses. Gunhouse is... I don't know, exclamation points seem a little overused. Protect your valuable orphans. Defeat giant improbable bosses. Gunhouse is part puzzle, part active tower defense, as you make big combos to launch a hail of bullets and special attacks at the alien invaders who would like nothing better than to consume your delicious orphan friends. Jesus. I do not read these ahead. Like, Phantom Trigger comes to PS4 Digital April 20th. Phantom Trigger is a hardcore neon slasher with RPG elements. Figure out what's real as you follow the story of Stan on a journey through surreal and twisted worlds. The fuck is a hardcore neon slasher with RPG elements? Slide comes to PS4 Digital April 20th. Slide is a classic sliding tile puzzle with 100 quality images and 3 difficulty modes. So Slide is a re-release of a re-release. So Slide's been out in Europe for a couple of weeks, maybe a month at this point. It was originally the 1,000 top-rated 5-star platinum in 30 seconds game that Sony was like, take this down. So they took it down. They re-released it without mentioning how easy it was to get a platinum trophy, because it was generating some pretty, quick sales, I think, for the trophy hunter, and everybody. It was re-released as, I think, like 5-star top rated or something like that. Then Sony was like, nephew, take this down. So again, they took it down. Then, like I said, it was re-released in Europe as Slide, and it is making its way to the PlayStation Store April 20th. I think it's only like $1 or $2, or at least it was the last couple times it's been out. It's a platinum trophy in like 30 seconds, maybe a minute. It just, whether or not the trophy list is the same, I don't know. We'll check when it's trophy talk. But last game on the drop is Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, comes to PS4, digital and retail. How far will you go for family? 3 years after the events of Yakuza 5, Kazuma Kiryu, the Dragon of Dojima, returns in Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, with the dream of living a quiet life. So those are your upcoming titles for April 17th through the 20th. So let's check trophies. I don't have PSN profiles pulled up yet. Oh, there it is. I lost it. So let me take a look here. If you're interested, the God of War trophies have leaked. If that's your fancy, you can pull those up. I took a look at them. I don't know. It just depends on what you guys classify as spoilers. I think to each their own in that. So I'm not going to get into like the nitty gritty and the granularity of what the trophies are. But it's in terms of specifics. But it is like a lot of like defeat this, defeat this, defeat this, max out this part, max out this weapon, max out this armor. And there's a lot of collections and stuff like that. It's similar to Horizon. There's no actual difficulty trophy. So if you were looking to play it on a different like difficulty, or you want to like play it on the hardest to get that trophy and brag about it, it's not happening. So it's not there's not, like I said, there's not a difficulty one, but from what I've read, the game itself's about 25 hours. Then people are putting in 10 or 15 after that, and not still not finding everything. So if that's something you want to look up, that's on you. You go right ahead. I'm not going to do that for you. So pull up some trophies here. Let's see. Pulled up Explosion. Let's see what Dragooned is. Runbow sounds fun. I was gonna do Dead Secret, but it's just 3 golds, a silver, and a bronze, and it's literally just get the 5 endings. So that's Dead Secret's trophy list. So let's see here. We'll go with here. Explosion has PS4 trophy list and Vita trophy list. So I'm assuming they're the same. They're just not. They'll stack. So that's cool. Uh, Explosion has a platinum, and they are, let's see, kill your first enemy, die for the first time, reach level 5 in classic mode, level 10 in classic mode, 25,000 points in classic mode, 50,000 points in classic mode, 75,000, 100,000 points in classic mode, 25 enemies in arena mode, 50 enemies in arena mode, 75 enemies in arena mode, 100 enemies. So I think this is from the same team that did 36 fragments to midnight. The breakdown of Explosion, by the way, is 0 bronze, 2 silver, 11 gold, and a platinum. So I think that's the same team as 36 fragments to midnight. So if that's the case, that's going to be a pretty easy platinum for people if they want to do that. And it looks like the PS4 trophies and Vita trophies, like I said, are separate. Dragooned. Let's see. Dragooned is 41 bronze, 5 silver, 3 gold, and a platinum. That's a shit ton of bronze. Let's see. Clear 50 levels in Endless Dungeon, clear 100 levels, 200 levels in Endless Dungeon, win a skirmish against 3 enemies on hard difficulty, 50 enemies on Onslaught. There's a trophy called Dance Puppet Dance. Damage a single enemy 3 or more times while they're in the air, followed by a power drive before they touch the ground, again with Night and Endless Dungeon, Skirmish, Onslaught, or Challenge 41 and up. Whatever that means. Series clear. You know what? You know fucking what? These trophy thumbnails look exactly like the graphics for that. Now I can't think of it. Skylight Free Range. That's exact. Okay, so I don't know if this is from the same team as Skylight Free Range. That trophy list is also near impossible, but this looks spot fucking onto it. This is what I mean. There's nothing to say that they are not friendly to small publishers. People are putting out this garbage-looking garbage. Runbow trophies. Runbow. I picked this one just by the name. 35 bronze, 8 silver, 3 gold, and a platinum. This will be the last one we look up. You can look up God of War on your own, like I said. Let's see. Get 3 medals in 10 adventure levels. Get 3 medals in 15 adventure levels. Beat 10 adventures with a friend. Get killed by a laser. Get hit by lightning 10 times. Land 1 of each attack. Taunt 20 times. Break 30 breakable blocks. Spend more than 3 minutes in the air. Play arena. Beat Satra in Forgotten Forest. 3 medals, all of Forgotten Forest. So, I mean, there's nothing too crazy exciting to talk about in the realm of trophies. Explosion might be one worth checking out if you're looking for an easy platinum, but I would most certainly stay away from Dragooned. Skylight Free Range. Look it up if you haven't heard of it. It is a garbage game. But what isn't garbage is that this has been the PlayStation Forecast. It does come to you each and every Tuesday on YouTube and podcast services around the globe. If you want to help me out, like I said, all I'm asking, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Help me out there. You can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/pressx2alex. And wherever you get this podcast, if you could subscribe there, hop onto iTunes, hop onto Apple Podcasts, however you consume it. Click the subscribe button, leave a 5-star review. Help me get this podcast, this little fledgling podcast that is just this little labor of love that I'm having a blast doing, and I hope that translates. I hope you can hear and see the fun I'm having when I do this, you know. I just want this to get into the eyes and ears of people that want a nice deep dive love letter PlayStation podcast. I've missed them. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm not going anywhere. So if you could help support me out, that does more for me than any amount of money that I could get from donations or a Patreon or anything like that. The review and the subscription will help keep these lights going, keep this mic working. Thank you all for the continued support. I hope you love the shit out of God of War. If you're not playing God of War, I hope you can chip away at that backlog that is so undesirably eating away at your hard drive space and your library. But until next week, thank you all, and good evening, or good day. Good night. PlayStation.